Along Russia's border with China, a forest wilderness curves south to Vladivostok, like a great claw of Siberia. Deep in this forbidding terrain prowls the world's largest cat. The Siberian tiger is a secretive and elusive carnivore, and a notoriously skilled hunter.
To us, the tiger is like a deity, like a god, and we ask it for help. Russians say, "Lord, help us," and we say, "Tiger, help us." The tiger will help me because I have asked him.
The native hunter's reverence is not shared by all.
I won't let the tiger get away alive once again. I will exterminate that vermin everywhere.
In this forest wilderness, a man is face to face with himself. He has no protection and no one controls him. None will know how he behaved, whether he was frightened or noble. There are no witnesses.
But if you're going to shoot, shoot to kill, as a wounded tiger can still finish you off. So it is best to leave them alone.
No one will ever know how you behaved with a tiger or a bear. Except, of course, in the cases when you're eaten. Then the experts will find out.
In my circle of biologists, we have a saying, if a tiger has decided to eat you, you won't ever see it. But if you see a tiger, it means that he hasn't made up his mind yet.
Some would call Luchagorsk a god-forsaken place at the end of a road seldom traveled. The city is a coal mining town 10 hours north of Vladivostok, and only 20 miles from the Chinese border. It is more than a decade since communism disappeared with the downfall of the Soviet Union, but this place still pulses with heartbeats from the past. A former miner himself, Yuri Trush is now a professional tiger hunter. With the dog Gita as his companion, Yuri Trush works for the environmental police as head of the conflict tiger unit. His work is to track down and eliminate tigers that have resorted to attacks on people. It's a dangerous job, and he relies heavily on his experience, his dog, and his gun.
In our line of work, it's a professional necessity. Your life and the lives of your colleagues depend on your gun and on its condition, especially in conflict situations, which I have been in more than once.
Yuri is a tough man. He has to be. In his line of duty, he knows that one mistake can spell his own death. The gun must be in tip-top shape.
She saved my life twice, and twice I saved hers. Maybe that's why we are so devoted to each other.
Yuri has witnessed many tragedies and experienced firsthand the consequences of conflicts between tigers and man. He must establish the cause of confrontation before he can decide what action to take. It is forensics work, and the tracks in the snow will tell him a story and will add to his understanding of what really took place at the scene. As part of his investigations, Yuri has taken to recording his experiences on camera. This incident began as so many others. A hunter is reported missing, and tiger tracks in the vicinity. Traces of blood soon lead Yuri and his team to the attack site. On examining the body, Yuri discovered that the victim was a former student of conservation. From the evidence at the scene, it was clear that he had turned his knowledge of tracking tigers to poaching them. What could lead a man sympathetic to the cause of nature to such reckless action?
Семья большая, 4 детей, жена.
He had a big family, a wife and 4 children. They lived pretty poorly. So he went to trace a tiger in order to kill him.
За тигром с целью добычи.
The countryside along the Beacon River Valley is an extensive wilderness and notorious tiger country. 4 hours away from the nearest city, the road follows the river to the village of Sobolini. This is a place for the hardy, as temperatures plummet to -30 or -40 degrees in the winter. Also, with the downfall of the Soviet Union, this village, like so many other remote villages in Russia, fell into oblivion. People are left to fend for themselves. Life is hard, really hard. Ludmila Kuznetsova has hunted all her life. She lives for the forest, but her passion for hunting is increasingly becoming a means of survival.
People have to take up a gun and go out there to find food because they're hungry. What do they do in the cities? They rob or racket. And what can we do out here in the wilderness? There's only one solution. If a man is unemployed and has a family, how does he survive? How does he support his family? Well, he hunts to get something to sell. That's how.
Ivan Dunka is an indigenous hunter with a wisdom and calm that comes from a lifetime of hard subsistence and solitude.
There is no work, and the forest is now full of people hunting, and the tiger himself has become very tempting. But the tiger is a harmful predator himself. He can bite you back. One mistake and you have had it. Either you kill or you are killed.
Dangerous or not, some dare to venture into the forests. Hunting is part of their everyday life. Some enter the forest as poachers. Others are legitimate hunters. Alexander Dvornik is one of many who has resorted to hunting. Deer and small game provide food for people. The protected Siberian tiger is not normally the hunter's first choice.
We all live from the forest. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You won't find anybody here without sin, including me. But the state has put us in such conditions that we have to survive any way we can.
Only a few hundred tigers remain in the world, and with a length of up to 3 to 4 meters, this is the largest of all cat species. With big males reaching more than 300 kilos in weight, the Siberian tiger is a serious adversary to any hunter who aims his gun at the cat. But many are still prepared to take the risk. A single dead tiger can get the hunter $5,000, equaling several years of income, and the tiger remains end up on the Chinese medicine market. For Yuri Trush, there was one case above all that showed what terrible consequences that mutual desperation could have. It was here, in these woods, that Yuri's most notorious pursuit of a man-eating tiger began. This is the story of a desperate man, Vladimir Markov, who spent months in the forest in order to support his family. In summer, Markov fished and tended to his bees, and in winter he hunted. Yuri Trush knew that Markov and his friends went hunting often, and he knew they were poaching. And to track a tiger down was not impossible for them. No one would ever really know. As far as we know, Vladimir Markov did not set out to kill a tiger. But he shared the forest with the mighty predator, and we know he had been poaching in the past. In a sense, the two hunters had a contract of mutual understanding, tolerating each other's presence. One day, Vladimir Markov came across the remains of a wild boar. Every hunter would know the signs of a fresh tiger kill, and would have thought twice about interfering.
The tiger must have been nearby, minding his catch. It had an effect on the animal. This nuance of behavior, this, how can I put it, this moment of greed showed the tiger's true nature. It's mine. Why are you taking it?
Still unaware of the tiger's presence, Vladimir Markov had broken the unwritten contract with the tiger. He had interfered, and suddenly, all rules were off. Next time, they would not meet each other in mutual respect. Steal food from a tiger is a terrible mistake, and Vladimir Markov would have been well aware of the blunder he had made. And for the tiger, the provocation was enough for it to pick up the scent of the man. It followed his trail backwards, coming eventually to the place where the hunter was living. Every hunter retains in his mind stories of the missing grandfather, the terrible case from the neighboring district, and every kind of myth and legend. Out of these half-truths, a fearful creature would have stalked the imagination of the solitary hunter. For Vladimir Markov, every sound in the frozen forest, every rustle of the trees, every shadow moving around his cabin, shrouds him in a veil of human fear.
There is something hypnotic about the tiger. More than that, he is also a hunter as we are. He has that quality. He'll always let you sense that he's close. And sometimes you can be sitting and hide, and the tiger is so close that he could reach out a paw and touch you.
During the long winter night, Markov was tormented by his fear. He couldn't see, he couldn't hear the tiger, and he failed to register as his torchlight reflected in the eyes of the predator. But the dogs were aware. They took refuge in a narrow space beneath the lodge, and he could hear them cowering and whimpering below. In the light of the morning, the hunter felt confident enough to venture outside. The tiger had made a statement in no uncertain terms, and had now leveled the playing field with the man who stole its food.
Сволочь недобитая. Гад.
Now it was personal. The predator had chewed and destroyed everything it could find that carried the scent of the man.
Now for us, this might look like a fearful and bloody legend, but for the hunter, the animal had affronted him. Either he accepts the challenge, or he runs.
Markov decided to stand his ground. Having shot at the tiger a second time, failing to kill it, Markov decided to leave the relative safety of his lodge to seek help from Ivan Dunkai, a native hunter with more experience with tigers.
Миша, 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 Миша. Миша.
И когда Володя объяснил ситуацию Ивану, в какой она оказалась?
When Markov explained his situation to Dunkai, the old man was not impressed. He reproached him. Don't come anywhere near my place. It's your problem now. You've got yourself into this situation. As a hunter, I recognize the position that you're in. I don't want your scent and your tracks bringing the same problem to my door.
Который оказался ты. Я не хочу, чтобы твой запах, твои следы привели именно к моему зимовью сюда, и у меня были какие-то неприятности.
It was 3 days into the ordeal, and the tiger began stalking Markov. To the Udege, Amba means God. The double meaning, God and devil, has been added only recently by white settlers. Vladimir Markov's friend Alexander Dvornik arrived with a small group of men from the village in an attempt to prevent the tiger from eating what was left of his friend. But waiting for the authorities to investigate the slaughter, the only thing they could do was to keep the tiger at bay.
We only got there at about 11 at night and heard the tigers roar from the forest. But there is no use going into the forest so late.
The tiger had obviously lost its fear of man, and repeatedly came as close as 10 to 15 meters from the men. They made as much noise as they could to keep the tiger away from themselves and from Markov's dead body. For Markov's friend Alexander Dvornik, this night changed his mindset.
Now, after the incident with Markov, I won't let a tiger get away alive. I will exterminate that vermin everywhere, because I've seen what it can do. I still have nightmares about it. If I'd known what I would see there, I would never have gone to the lodge.
The following morning, on December 6th, Yuri Trush received news of the tiger attack near the village of Sobolini, and he and his team were called in to investigate.
We only kill the tiger in extreme situations, but only if an animal actually attacks a man in the forest do we investigate the case. Obviously, human life is our priority.
Yuri and his team arrived at the site of the reported attack. As usual, Yuri began to record his findings on camera, and he continued with these recordings as events unfolded.
Around the entrance to the lodge, we found many paw marks, blood stains, and tracks leading into the forest. The scene was really horrible. It was much worse than what we were expecting. Actually, there was no Markov.
The whole place looked like a battle scene, evidence of Markov strewn all over. Even his water bottle was chewed to pieces. Gita, Yuri's dog, eagerly followed the scent of the tiger's tracks. The predator could not be far away.
На юг. Вот Лёшка еще одна. Вот четко просматривается след. Уходящий.
Gita was agitated as she gave away the tiger's close proximity. But the men were concentrating on the task at hand, recklessly forgetting a large predator was close by. They soon found what remained of Vladimir Markov.
All that was left from the corpse were his legs gnawed just above the knee, still in rubber boots, some remnants of the clothes, the left-hand wrist, no left arm, not at the shoulder, and that was all.
All the recorded signs at the killing site indicated that the predator was a huge male tiger, probably 3 to 4 meters in length, and wounded in one paw. The size and the behavior struck fear in everyone, and the killer was still on the loose. But Yuri and his team needed permission from Moscow before they could act. In the meantime, they rather hoped that the problem would disappear quietly back into the forest. Throughout the following week, there were multiple sightings of tiger tracks in the vicinity of the village. Tracks of a large wounded male. Sobolini became a village struck with fear.
Somebody told me that in India they won't shoot a tiger until it has eaten 4 people. Before then, it's not considered a man-eater. I recommend them to bring their own children to feed the tiger. It came towards the village but passed by. And if it had eaten somebody in the village, what then? I didn't let my children out.
Meanwhile, in the forest, another predator is chewing away on the Russian wilderness. This taiga forest is in the iron grip of the multinational logging industry. It is stripping Russia of her natural resources with the lure of short-term profit.
The main problem for the tiger today is the lack of forests. That is the root cause of all conflicts.
In a deteriorating forest, the last roar of the tiger echoes in despair. If creatures of prey can't survive, neither can tigers. It has become a story of life and death. But who is playing which part in this drama?
The area where tigers live has been reduced. They need to find something to eat. And tigers, because of it, have begun to approach human settlements. It attacks cattle. I mean dogs, cows, horses, and sometimes people.
Everybody was warned not to set foot in the forest. Don't set foot in the forest. We've got a man-eater around. Then Andrei Pochepnio returned from the army. He wanted to go to the forest. We tried to dissuade him. Where are you going? It's dangerous. He said, I'm going there. I'm not afraid.
Андрюха, я пойду, я не боюсь.
Andrei Pochepnya was a young soldier who had survived active duty in Chechnya. He had been back home for 6 months, but could not find work. He chose to ignore all the hysterical rumors about a man-eating tiger. The second death was reported on December 16th. Yuri Trush and his team were again called to the site of a tiger attack. On this occasion, the animal had left nothing of the young man's body, leaving the investigators to draw their conclusions from what remained of his clothing. The animal had attacked from a distance of about 10 meters, biting through its victim's neck vertebrae from the left side. From the incoming tracks, the investigators could see that the tiger was moving with difficulty. Looking at the evidence at the site, including the tracks of the tiger around the tent that Andrei Pochepnya had used while in the forest, Yuri and his team concluded it was the same tiger that killed Andrei, that had also killed Vladimir Markov. Andrei's mother, Elena Pochepnya, is left with her grief, made even worse when her husband and Andrei's father hung himself in sorrow.
Who can be guilty? Probably those who hadn't taken a decision to kill the tiger after the first tragedy. What is the life now? I get $70 a month, and there are 3 of us. My other son, where will he find work? There is only the forest left. I don't want to let my remaining son go to the forest. And that's how we live now.
Вот так и живем потихоньку.
It was obvious the tiger was a man-eater, and the authorities were responsible for his death.
A man-eater is still on the loose. 2 people have been killed by the same predator. Back at his home, Yuri Trush felt the villagers' anger, and he had to ask himself if he was to blame. Could he have acted sooner? Could the second death have been avoided?
Нет, вины недооценки нас.
We didn't feel guilty that we underestimated the case. But no one could have predicted how the situation would develop. We only realized that the animal had to be killed by any means.
Уверены, что этого зверя надо было ликвидировать любыми путями.
Yuri had to make sure that there would not be a third victim. Like so many times before, Yuri and his friend Vladimir Shebnev found themselves in the forest on the trail of a man-eater. It was a tense situation, because they knew that at this point, the most likely casualty of this conflict situation would be one of the men in the conflict tiger unit. In the morning, a full-scale pursuit was organized, with groups tracking towards each other, limiting the tiger to a progressively smaller territory. Yuri and his team were looking for the very distinctive prints of a wounded animal. Whereas a healthy tiger can comfortably cover more than 100 kilometers in a day, this one was moving on 3 legs, hopping rather than walking, and lying down every 80 meters.
Markov had been killed. Pochepnya had been killed. Everyone knew that we hadn't yet succeeded in catching it. They knew it could be anywhere. They finally understood the danger.
After 6 days of pursuit, Yuri knew that the team had the animal confined to an area of only a few square kilometers. While driving through a section of open country, he spotted fresh tracks by the side of the road. They were sure these were the tracks of the man-eater.
О, мужики, где-то здесь! След тигриный, смотри! Давай сюда, быстро, побыстрее только! Вроде этот след. Самый.
Пятка его.
Ну, будем брать? Внимательнее, где-то здесь рядом. Ну-ну.
Единственная фраза.
The only thing we said to each other was, "Be careful." We held our guns ready. We all knew the possible consequences.
Развязки было какое-то.
When Yuri's dog Gita first ran away, then came to a standstill, Yuri was alerted and trusted his dog.
Пролетает мимо меня.
I understood that the animal was very close. My heart started beating very quickly. I felt the final end was approaching.
Вот он, сейчас развязка будет.
How close, he didn't know. Unlike the predator, he was blind to the situation.
Ничего не увидел. Единственное потом слышу справа рык.
And suddenly I heard the roar from the right. It was not loud, just low basso.
Бас такой низкий. Поворачиваюсь, а скал.
I turned and saw bared teeth. It was ready to jump, bent like a cat, and moved towards me.
Вот с этим со скалом небольшой такой приглушенный рык. Потом все стихло.
Then everything went quiet, and I understood I was alive.
Yuri found himself underneath the dead weight of the tiger's corpse. He crawled out, and in a state of shock, he ran back to the truck to retrieve his camera. This tiger had almost killed him. His friends had fired their guns into the tiger, missing Yuri only by inches. The tiger had swallowed the barrel of his rifle.
Тигр, скорее всего, прыгал. Уже прыжок это делал.
Probably, I killed the tiger in the jump, and it grabbed the barrel as it died. That's why it didn't grab me.
СКС. Поэтому не произошло хватки.
Slowly it dawns on Yuri how close to death he came. The man-eater's claws ripped through his clothes into his side.
Я, например, благодарен тем ребятам, Володе.
I'm grateful to the guys who took part in the operation. And on December 21st each year, I celebrate my second birthday.
Каждый год отмечают второй мой день рождения, как считаю.
The team decided to take the slain tiger back to the village as a cathartic gesture to calm local nerves. People soon gathered to see the cause of all their anguish. For many, this would have been their first glimpse of a tiger, but its ragged, emaciated, and bloody corpse made for a pitiful comparison with the mighty creature that had stalked their imagination. In order to establish the cause of the tiger's aggression, Yuri and his colleagues conducted a post-mortem. They found buckshot fired from close range and rifle bullets, which were not theirs. This tiger had been repeatedly provoked, and they found the damaged paw that linked this specific tiger to the man-eating incidents.
В этом составе было ему не давало хода. Передней правой лапе нашли 6 картечин.
In the animal's right front paw, we found 6 buckshots.
Нашли еще.
On further examination, we found 2 more bullets fired from a rifle. And somebody had managed to shoot the tiger with birdshot. It's a fact that the tiger had been wounded several times before we finally killed it. It was men who were responsible for aggression of that animal.
Но всему я считаю, что именно человек сделал его вот таким конфликтным.
A wounded tiger will search for easy prey, and Yuri concluded that this tiger turned man-eater because it had been shot at repeatedly. And even though a lot of people will thank him for what he did, Yuri is faced with a new problem. Because of his actions, a curse is upon him.
Ну и мое мнение такое, что разговаривая с удыгейцами,
The native people tell me that I am now marked by the tiger.
ты меченый тигром. То есть тебе общаться, вернее,
They won't let me sleep with them under the same roof.
с нами
They have their beliefs.
отдельно. Ну, понятие такое у них, понимаете, было.
Исчезнет наш живой Бог, исчезнет, да? Тогда в первую очередь, конечно, человек.
If our living God disappears, we will lose something very important. But first you must save man. Although he is a harmful predator, a man is a man. A man should be saved. Well, you may not think of adults or the old, but there are children to be sorry for. They are our future. And if we destroy all nature for money, it's not worth it.
Губить нельзя, ни в коем случае, никого губить нельзя.
For conservationist Vladimir Kruglov, a passion for the wilderness is constantly confronting the bitterness caused by tiger conflict.
20-30 лет гарантия, что...
There is no guarantee that there will be tigers 20 or 30 years from now. There is one solution. We should organize reservations where man won't be allowed. We should give the tiger large pieces of taiga forest to roam undisturbed. The wilderness without tigers is not a wilderness. The forest will lose its interest for me.
Туда и не ходить, неинтересно.
Вот с моей точки зрения, это как бы...
If the tiger becomes extinct, it will automatically mean that the whole region as we know it is heading for extinction too, its inhabitants and wildlife together. The people who live in this wilderness are of the same ecological niche as the tiger.
Исчезнуть вместе с тигром. Вот как-то так, и никак иначе.
And Yuri, the man at the center of the tiger conflict, continues to work for both man and beast, realizing that an insurmountable problem is growing.
Ситуация с Марковым, она неординарная, конечно.
The situation with Markov was extraordinary, but it is indicative of the current situation. People are forced to go into the forest to look for a means to survive, to support themselves and their families. Everything is for sale to have some means of existence. As long as there is a demand for this animal, it will be hunted, and there will be provocations by man. It is inevitable.
От этого никуда не деться.
The native people of this region have always revered the tiger as the very breath and spirit of the land, and as a messenger between heaven and earth. If the animal should disappear from the wild, the message will be clear enough. Will we heed the last roar of the tiger?
接下来，这是一场赌注最大的游戏，掠食者与猎物都是游戏的参与者。掠食